Lubitsch, and you're watching Kiah TV. We're here today with Stevie Valles, Executive Director of Chicago Votes, and Kiah Sandler. So thanks so much for being with us today. Just talk to us about the work that you do at Chicago Votes.
So my name is Kiah. I'm a Democracy Corps Fellow with Chicago Votes. I've been volunteering with them for a couple years now, but I have been definitely lucky to come on this year as a Democracy Corps Fellow and just help organize around just getting the vote out and getting young people motivated for November 3rd and how to engage.
So can you talk to us about specific programming that you offer?
Yeah, so something that we've been working on around, so part of my working group as a Democracy Corps Fellow is I work with the Get Out the Vote working group team. So right now, our group specifically is focused around how can we make sure that young people know how to access information, know how to be registered, and know how to get to the ballots without any issues or without any problems. And we also want to make sure that we are sharing recruitment and volunteer opportunities with young people. Some of that looks like sort of these three major prongs, right, around voter outreach, voter education, and voter activation. So voter outreach can look like we do weekly phone bankings on Tuesdays and Thursdays where we're just calling young people who are registered, and we're just sort of trying to engage in conversations to see if we can motivate people to pledge to vote, and if not, if we can persuade them otherwise. We also have, where voter education, we're creating a nonpartisan, and we always create a nonpartisan sort of voter guide. So, and I think also a judicial voter guide as well, because there are about 60 plus judges that are going to be up for re-election this November. So just making sure that people are informed with the names that are going to be on their ballot. Obviously, we're a nonpartisan organization, so we're not pushing an agenda, but we want people to be informed. And then voter outreach just sort of looks like if you're motivated and you're sort of informed in terms of voting, then how can we get you to motivate and empower your community around you as well to push the people around you to do the same?
And I just want to add, in addition to Kiah's program, ongoing at Chicago Votes, we have three main programs that we run. Unlock Civics, which is primarily work around the intersection of American legal system reform and democracy reform for people who are currently experiencing or directly impacted by incarceration. We have Give a Shit Chicago, which is our work that primarily focuses on engaging young creatives and artists and activists in the city of Chicago and giving them the tools or supporting them and empowering them to be able to engage their audience around civic matters, whether it be voting or criminal justice reform or a litany of others. And then our third program is Parades to the Polls, where we work inside high schools, colleges, and in communities to host parades of young people to go cast their ballots together. Obviously, given COVID-19 and the need for us to not gather in large groups, Parades to the Polls have taken on a bit of a new form, which sounds a lot like what Kiah described, where our Democracy Corps organizers are focusing on educating, engaging, and activating young people around this election specifically.
And so talk about your Unlock Civics program, and then also you guys were a part of a legislative success that was able to bring polling booths essentially to Cook County Jail.
Kiah, if it's all right with you, I'll go ahead and jump in here. So Unlock Civics, we started the initiative in 2017. It originally began with us doing monthly voter registration drives inside the Cook County Jail. And we did that as a volunteer opportunity for our base. While doing that, we started having conversations with people who are inside who wanted to actually cast their ballots. And we were moving ahead with trying to get a polling location inside the Cook County Jail, but we quickly realized that in order to do that, we needed to pass a piece of legislation. And at the same time, we realized a number of other things. One, a lot of people with felony convictions on their record who are not in prison in Illinois did not know that they had the right to vote and still do not know that they have the right to vote, even though they've served their time. Two, this absentee ballot program that we started running in the jail in order to give people an opportunity to vote before we got the polling location there was not being offered to the jails across the rest of the state. And three, in order to put a polling location inside the jail, again, we would have to pass a law because turning the jail into a polling location technically would give everybody in that community access to the jail to go vote at that polling location. So the law addressed those three concerns, turning the Cook County Jail only into a temporary polling location for the people who are detained there. It requires that everybody in jails across the state of Illinois are given an opportunity to cast their ballot via absentee ballot. And it also requires that when people are released from jail, prison, taking off of probation, they are given a Know Your Rights guide, letting them know that their rights to vote have been restored now that their time has been served, in a voter registration form. So at the same time they were receiving that Know Your Rights guide, they're able to register to vote on the spot. And this past March was the first time we were able to have polling machines in the jail for the election. It was highly successful. Roughly 1,500 people incarcerated at the Cook County Jail cast a ballot. And just over 600 of them were able to utilize same-day voter registration, which is not something they would have been able to do had there not been a polling location in the jail.
Wow. And so talk about some of the other legislative successes that Chicago Votes has had or been a part of.
In addition to that bill, we passed a bill that requires that people being released from prison have access to peer-led civic education courses at least 12 months ahead of their release date. So these are courses that are taught by people in prison to the people being released from prison. So in addition to getting that Know Your Rights guide and that voter registration form, when they're released, they'll also be knowledgeable about the civic process, how government works, and the history behind it. And that was done, and all of these efforts were done in collaboration with a number of other nonprofits and in coalition, as well as legislators. So I just want to make sure that that's known. And prior to that, we are part of a coalition called Just Democracy that works to just get democracy reforms passed. And in the past, we've been a part of an effort to pass automatic voter registration, same-day voter registration, online voter registration, and extended hours for early voting.
That's great. And so Kiah, since you were kind of on the ground doing a lot of voter registration work, can you talk about what do you see as the enthusiasm level amongst young people to vote this year?
Yeah, so, and it's funny because a lot of that on the ground engagement, right?
I know, because of COVID, is a lot different.
Calling people and texting people and engaging virtually, certainly. But I think we're seeing a lot of energy. I think young people absolutely understand that this is a really important and significant election. I think we have a lot of young people that want to make sure that the issues that they care about are being heard, right? The issues that they care about are just as valid. I think young people often, especially just with this sort of current election, are really motivated to see that there is some sort of response or some sort of recognition if their ballots are cast. So we're definitely engaging with people, but I think young people are also starting to mobilize and organize in their own ways as well. I think we always are trying to partner with other organizations to make sure that we can engage however other people are sort of virtually engaging, but I think young people are really taking this seriously, and I think that's really exciting to see. We've been able to we've been doing these phone banks for about 3 or 4 weeks on a regular, like at least twice a week basis. And I think we're constantly engaging with young people who are just really interested on how they can help. We're also recruiting young people to serve as election judges this year, because it's a job that's normally done by retirees and older elderly people, and we want to make sure that election day is as safe as possible. So we're seeing also young people kind of come out and put themselves out there in a different way as well. So I think that's really exciting.
Yeah. And do you see a recognition, I think, of amongst young people of how important local elections are as well as national elections?
I think that there's always going to be so many more questions around local elections and names on your ballot that are local elections, because I think a lot of that, you don't see the same sort of TV ads. You're not going to get a lot of the same CNN debates around it, right? So definitely that's one of the reasons why we're putting so much energy and research into our voter guides and our judicial guide as well. Because those are the questions that people are asking us, right? And we want to make sure that everybody's informed. But definitely, people are attuned to kind of recognize that this is major.
Yeah. How has the COVID-19 pandemic affected the work, all of the work that you do, but specifically in terms of voter mobilization?
Well, yeah, a lot of the work that we've done up until this year is all about getting out into the communities, being in people's faces, as close to them as we possibly can be. So obviously that's not allowed. So we've shifted to a lot of digital engagement, doing a lot of public education through online and social distancing mechanisms, like Kiah mentioned, the phone banks and tweet banks. We're doing those via Zoom as opposed to meeting up at restaurants like we typically used to do.
Right.
Instead of like our give a shit happy hours that we used to do, we have the weekly shit talks, where we bring on organizers and creatives and elected officials to talk about the issues that are really important to people today. We've been doing a lot of texting, text software, just to make sure people are creating plans to go vote, making sure people are registering to vote online, making sure people are requesting their absentee ballots. And then our advocacy work, we typically would be down in Springfield, in the faces of legislators trying to get different policies passed, but a lot of our advocacy work has now shifted to this election and working with the election administrators, as well as the Cook County Jail, where we do a lot of election related work to ensure that this election is ran in a way that does not unintentionally disenfranchise voters who may not necessarily be comfortable or used to voting by mail. So ensuring that there is indeed still in-person options for voting that are safe, and foster an opportunity for people to cast their ballot in person.
Okay. And so if people want to get involved, how do they, how would you go about becoming a part of a shit talk session?
Well, our shit talks are streamed live on our Instagram, so follow us at Chicago Votes. And we do them every usually at 8 or 8:30 on every Friday, on every Thursday, my apologies. And they're really fun. We've already been able to talk to Stevie interviewed State's Attorney Kim Foxx at one point. Last week we had DJ Evie the Cool. So we always have different dynamics, and the conversation topic might shift. But we want to just make sure that we're facilitating conversations around how young people feel, that everything is transpiring as well, and how can you engage no matter what you do or your life is about. And then always follow, so follow us on social media is always sort of the number one, because we're always sharing volunteer opportunities as well as resources and information that we think is really important. Um, but there's also, like, we do those weekly phone bankings, right? So again, on our social media, the registration link is there, and we're happy to send that to you as well, Emma. But again, anybody can sign up and lean in for however long that they want, to sort of see if they're interested in volunteering in that way. And then we're always doing, if anybody's interested, again, we're recruiting people to serve as election judges, and that's just sort of a training day and then serving on election day itself. But we're here as a resource, so we're really here to help answer questions, and people DM and come to us with all sorts of questions all the time.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for talking with me today. Any closing thoughts?
I'll just say that, like, I've been volunteering with Chicago Votes for about 4 years now, and I think that I really respect and appreciate this organization because it was, especially in the beginning, when I started as a sophomore in college, it was a safe educational space where I could just get questions answered. And now it has become not only a major part of my network, but a resource for me to engage with the community around me in a completely different way. Chicago Votes has really strong partnerships and relationships with people in the city, and they're authentic. And that's important to me, that we're engaging with community members and working alongside them, and advocating for the things that they want in their communities. So I would just say that, like, if people are looking to be engaged, there are still safe ways to do it, and we're here as a resource to help with that.
That's great. Thank you.
You know, just that we are optimistic that on the other end of this year, through the work that we're doing to engage young people in the elections and just increase the civic knowledge gap that exists amongst the audience that we engage in, that will come out of this with a more engaged generation of youth participants that are ready to recreate the world. I think through the pandemic and through the racial unrest that we've experienced as a nation and as a city, a lot of inequities that exist have been highlighted. And so we're hoping that through this work that we'll be able to bring more young people, specifically Black and Brown young people from communities that traditionally lack voice, into the fold, and ultimately be able to guide the recreation of our systems and how they exist to serve our communities.